Okay, well, to start with, I'd just like to say welcome to everyone to this year's HPSN UK 2023. Thank you all very much for getting along. I'm sure there's been some really long travel to get here, people that stayed over the night before and some very early start, so great to see so many people here this morning. We really appreciate you coming along. Some boring bits to start with, which is general housekeeping rules. So I've been told there is no fire alarms expected today, so if you do hear a fire alarm, there's a chance that it's a real one. So we just need to find your nearest exit and wait in the car park until we're told that it's safe to come back inside. Toilets are just out here on the left. There's also ones down by the bar if you need to find them. And the restaurant is back down where the product showcase is on the right-hand side. So we'll be in the restaurant today for the lunch, so it'll be a sit-down meal. And we'll also be there this evening as well for people who are planning to stay on for the evening. In terms of the team that we've got here today, there's about 20 of us from CAE. So we've got our digital team, who are at the back at the moment. They'll be down outside the product showcase. We've also got our learning space team. We've got our ultrasound team. Our team of technicians, Tony, Joe and Tom, are around. And then we've got our sales team as well. Everyone from CAE is branded in a CAE polo shirt of some description. So if you get lost, if you need directions or anything like that, then please just come and tap somebody on the shoulder and we'll do our best to help you out with anything. We've also got our distributor, Simmons Skills, here today. You can see Chris and Kieran still at the back. Chris and Kieran, who were once CAE, so thank you very much for coming along. They've also got a prize for us to present later on this afternoon, so thank you for that. And we've also got the team from Iris here. You can see Phil over there. So again, they're down outside the product showcase, so please go along, say hello and see what interesting stuff they've got to offer to you as well. In terms of the programme, we'll have a very quick run through. We have the keynote presentation this morning, and that will be followed by interactive sessions. You will notice on your badges that you will have a colour sticker. I don't know what colours we went for in the end, I think red, blue, yellow and green. But you'll basically be divided into 4 groups and you will be taken around to look at some CAE equipment. We're going to run 2 sessions like that and then we'll have our first breakout for the workshops. The workshops will be carried out in Braeburn and Pippin room, which are the 2 rooms we've got right here, one on the left, one on the right. And then we also have the Rose Garden and the Herb Garden, which are again down the other end outside where the product showcase is. We have Acorn 1, which is 1 floor up. So again, if you need any directions for that. And then there's also a meeting going on in Acorn 2 later. So anyone that's here for the emergency medical care meeting, you're up in Acorn 2. So again, if you need any directions, then we'll help you to find where that is. In terms of the rotations, we have Matt here, who will be leading one group. We have Tony and Joe, who are at the back, leading on another group. And who do we have? Christiana as well, who is our new UK customer service person. I don't know if Christiana is around anywhere. She's on the main desk, so you would have seen her at reception this morning. We've also got with us today Jeff Griffiths. If Jeff want to stand up and give us a wave. So Jeff is our new manager for the direct territories, so for the UK and Europe. So again, Jeff's really keen to meet as many people as possible while he's here over the 2 days. So please, if you get 5 minutes, come along and say hello to Jeff and introduce yourselves. Lunch, as I've mentioned already, will be a sit-down lunch in the restaurant, which will run from 1 till 2, and then after that we'll go back to the product rotations, where there'll be 2 more interactive sessions, and then we'll have more workshops following that. And then towards the end of the day, we'll be back in here where we have a really interesting plenary session around podcasting. At the end of that, there'll be a little bit more done in terms of a prize draw, and then we'll introduce the evening's shenanigans to you. So for the evening reception tonight, we'll be starting around 6:30. We have a cocktail making session that will be going on between 7 and 9, and that's going to be broken into groups of 4, so you can go along and do some cocktail making for about 20 minutes. And we also have some casino tables that are coming along for a bit of fun gambling. So no real money will be taking place, but again, there will be prize for whoever collects the most fun money at the end of it. You would have also noticed in your ticket that you have a raffle ticket in the back of it. So we're just going to start off this morning with a quick prize draw to try and perk everyone up. The reason that we've had to do raffles this year is because last year Rob Hunter knew that the envelopes had gift vouchers inside them, so he went around feeling all the envelopes to find out which ones had the winning ones on them. So we've had a long meeting to find a fairer way of doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick out a number. If it's your number, please stand up. Matt's then going to come over with an envelope to you. You pick an envelope, and they've all got random prizes inside them. You just tell us what you've won, and then we'll draw the next number. If there's any number that gets drawn out today and the person isn't here because they're only coming tomorrow, we'll put that number back in, so you've still got a chance of winning this afternoon and again tomorrow morning, so make sure you keep hold of your tickets. So Jeff, if you want to pick out the first number for me. So 89. There we are. Next one. 45. There we are. 104. 104, yep. There we are. 211. 211. Like a bingo caller. Have we got a 211 in the room anywhere? If not, we'll put it back in and we'll draw another one. Number 9. Sure it's the right way up. Number 9. There we are. How many have we got left, Matt? 2 to go? 3 to go. 141.206. 206. There we are, over there. Last one, yeah. Okay, and the last one for this morning is 26. Got 26? No, just 26. We'll put that one back in then. Do another one. We've got 112. 112. Oh, we were doing so well. I'm going to have to start putting them all back in. Another one. 118. There we are. Okay, so that's this morning one's done. As I mentioned, so there's further prizes this afternoon after the plenary session, and then we'll do the same again tomorrow morning for those who are here for both days and extra people that are only coming for tomorrow. As I mentioned, if anyone's got any questions or anything, please just ask anyone in a CAE polo shirt and we'll do our best to help you. But now I'm going to hand you over to the President of CAE Healthcare, Mr. Jeff Evans.
Hey, good morning. It is great to be here with all of you for my second year in a row. I know HPSN has been going on for, about 16 years now, if you can believe it. So great opportunity. I think any morning that starts with prizes and the word shenanigans in the opening speech, you know it's going to be a good 2 days. So first off, huge thank you to the entire CAE team. Putting this stuff together takes an entire village. And so congratulations for what looks to be just a fabulous 2 days from an educational perspective, obviously products in the back that you all can take a look at. And then really the opportunity for everybody to continue to think about how you network together, right? Which is one of the biggest reasons this was put together, 16 years ago as well. Just this small knit community of best practice sharing and how do we continue to think about healthcare simulation and healthcare in totality, and how do we continue to improve. Thank you to all of you. The fact of the matter is, healthcare today continues to be in an entirely challenging spot. So we think about physician shortages, we think about nursing shortages, we think about quality outcomes and medical errors. And what you do matters more than ever. We want to be your partner in that for the long run. And so just a big thank you to all of you for what you do. I've been in healthcare for 20 years now. And you've seen the ebbs and flows over the last 20 years and where we are today. We've got a lot of work to do, but what you do as we think about healthcare simulation and the downstream effects that it has both in the pre and the postgraduate space is truly inspiring. So a huge thank you to all of you. Last year I shared with everybody a bit of our vision. So 18 months ago, CAE Healthcare started on what is a bit of an audacious journey to really change healthcare simulation for the better forever. We think about that in a couple of ways. One is it starts with the physiology engine that drives the human body, right? And what you do to it in regards to medical equipment and medicine matters. And so we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to invest in that platform, to continue to think about how we integrate that into our simulators, integrate that into our digital products that we come to market with, to really be the basis of how we get to realism, how we get to relevance in clinical applications. We continue to think about how we invest in what is new generation in the physical portions of patient simulation. So a bit of teasers as we get into IMSH next year. I mean, this really matters. 2024 is going to be an exciting year for this organization. Hopefully you all will see that at IMSH and or after IMSH, but really thinking about simulators in a different way, software that helps drive total cost of ownership over time, improve workflows, ease of use, things that you've given us feedback on over the last few years we've taken to heart. We've done a number of studies, panels over the course of the last 6 to 9 months to get your feedback on what simulators need to be and what they need to look like. Things that are modular in approach, common chassis, the ability to scale from low fidelity to high fidelity, clinical needs based upon the curriculums that you all are driving. And so I think you all will really see some very cool things over the course of the next year or so in regards to what we bring to market. We'll continue to think about the digital framework as well. So everything I just talked about in regards to the physical nature gets transferred over into the digital as you think about virtual learning, as you think about digital twins, what that means in regards to your ability to create content at ease, implement into simulators, implement into different types of digital applications, things that are on-site, self-directed learning, virtual in nature, to be able to integrate with and or prepare for individual simulations or continue to think about competencies after the physical simulation that you have to be able to reiterate those competencies over the learner's journey. All of those things have defined data points. And as I continue to have conversations with all of you and across the globe, the one thing that continues to hold true is how do we continue to accelerate the learner journey? How do we get to learner proficiency faster? How do we get to adaptive learning through data? And so when you think about a new generation of simulator and you combine that with a digital ecosystem that digests data on a pretty regular basis and then feeds it back to you in a prescriptive manner, you have a pretty cool way of running simulation and thinking about things differently that truly accelerates the learner journey. And that's where we're headed. We want all of you to be along there with us. And so I welcome over the course of the next 2 days your all's feedback in regards to things that you're seeing from us, things that you're seeing in the market, so that we can continue to improve together. IMSH will kick some of that off as we get into January. Hopefully I will see some of you there. I also realize it's halfway across the planet. and in the farthest state it could possibly be in my home state of California. Makes it easy for me, not for you. But we should have an incredible IMSH. I would ask Ronnie and Jeff and the rest of the team to think about maybe a virtual IMSH for this group coming out of maybe the month of February that we could do for members in the room at Mass, and really share with you some of the things that we've got on the horizon from a roadmap perspective, give you some of the highlights from IMSH if you can't make it. On top of all that, and on top of my day job, we decided to have an announcement about 6 weeks ago, and something that I've been working on throughout the calendar year. In April, the board of directors called me. We had nothing else on our plate at that point in time, and told us that they wanted to spin off and sell the healthcare business. A lot of really good reasons for that. By the way, I'll put you a bit at ease here over the course of the next couple of minutes. The CAE business needs capital, right? It's a $4 billion company, primarily in the aviation and defense and security business. And so when you have some things in other businesses that don't go so well, you need cash. And so this business has been doing extremely well over the last couple of years, and it was the right opportunity for CAE to think about what that spinoff looked like from a cash perspective. I spent my summer in Montreal and New York and a couple other places, marketing the organization and sharing the journey of where this company is going. We had about 70 people that were interested in buying the company over the summertime. We had about 70 people under NDA. So it was a very interesting process. We narrowed that down to 5 individual companies, private equity and financial institutions. The first 2 weeks of August, we had management presentations in New York. And we had what I would consider the best possible outcome in regards to where this company goes for the future, and that was the announcement about 6 weeks ago, which is Madison Industries has bought CAE Healthcare. And so Madison Industries is a private equity company. It's about a $10 to $15 billion private equity firm out of Chicago. They've got 82 standalone healthcare companies that are autonomous in nature. That's a big deal for me, autonomy to be able to run the company the way that we want to, the flexibility and not tied in necessarily to a lot of the things that aviation and defense and security wants to do. We can continue to accelerate our roadmap and some of the things that I talked about previously, and really go where we want to go and even go faster than we have been able to in the past. So Madison is a company that's founded on mission. This is a long hold for them. This is not a 2, 3, 4 year, let's turn it and move this company. This is a 10-year plus hold. And they focus, Larry Geese, if you know the name, he's got a few dollars in his back pocket. If you introduce yourself to him, you say, hey, what do you do? He goes, I make the world a safer, healthier, and more productive place. And that's a pretty cool spot for this organization to be as you think about the mission and what we all continue to strive for on a regular basis. And so we are in a great spot. It is business as normal for us. So you should see no changes to anything. All 600 employees and everybody that you see in the room come over with us. The entire leadership team is coming over. So the great work that we've accomplished over the course of the last 18 or 24 months will continue. The relationships and the collaborations with you all will continue. And I really am excited for the pathway that we have to come. So I'm around for the next 2 days. I know I have some scheduled meetings with folks. If not, and you want some time, I'd love to sit down with you and just hear what's going on, see where we can continue to do better, how we can partner and collaborate in different ways. I hope you have a great 2 days. It's a great agenda. And I hope you have some time in between the shenanigans to meet with each other and continue to learn and think about best practices across this industry. We want to be a part of it. We want to be a leader across the globe in this space. And we appreciate the continued partnership with you all. So With that, I will turn it over to our Chief Medical Officer, Stefan Monk, to do some introductions. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our first keynote speaker of the day. That's Emily Brown, and when I met Emily, she was Vice Dean at Staffordshire University, where she left, of course, with the team, a legacy already with that simulation center. Before that, she was a nurse, and that also alone would make her a very, very precious asset. And Jeff mentioned that, you probably know the WHO thinks that we need 10 million more nurses by 2030, which is not too far away. So I think it's very clear that that's a hot topic for us. She's been working as a military flight nurse as well. And right now, she's the head of education and training at Midland Air Ambulance. And that very much relates to me because I've been on an emergency helicopter air ambulance operation in my hometown in Germany as well. So I think I can imagine how your work looks occasionally. Specific for the topic that she's going to talk about, if you run or if you're part of an organization like that, I think what you do needs to make a difference. It's not interesting if you have a shiny object. You need something that delivers, that helps you to be more efficient, that you drive outcomes that you're interested in, etc. And I think that's a very good representation of healthcare today, where we see resources are limited, where staffing is an issue, and where the shiny objects don't solve the problems. I think we need to focus on something better than that. So her title that says, Right Technology, Right Place, Right Time, I think refers to that. So I'm very curious to hear about that, and please welcome with me Emily Brown.
Wow, that's a bit weird having an introduction. So thank you. Thank you for all staying in the room and not leaving after that. So that's great. My name is Emily Brown, and I am going to talk to you about the right technology, right place, right time. I just want to say that I'm really happy to be here. This is brilliant for me. HPSN was the very first conference I ever attended. Ruth Hanley, I think, is in the room, brought me to this conference. We drank white wine. They had beer tokens. It was amazing. I bought lots of technology. And HPSN has held that in my heart for a long time. It was the first conference that I ever presented at as well. So I know how some of you are going to be feeling about that. But the imposter syndrome today is absolutely real. I'm looking around this room and I can already see, half a dozen people that I would like to see present. I really, really want to be sat there now. There are quite a few people who are really great and I would love to hear them present, and I can't believe that I'm here presenting to you. So hopefully my presentation is going to give you some information or some insights, if not a rambling through my mind and what I think about in terms of technology and purchasing it. Okay, so just a little bit about me, and that's kind of been covered in the introduction, so how come I get to stand up here in front of you? I don't really know. I love simulation. I'm a nurse. When I first had an introduction to simulation at university, it wasn't very nice. It was scary, it was punitive, it wasn't enjoyable. We had one SimMan 3G and nobody could touch it. In the third year, you got one 3-hour session on with the SimMan 3G, and God forbid we put any fluid in that mannequin. So simulation wasn't the most exciting thing for me as a student, and I didn't particularly enjoy it. But I went on and I had other jobs. I was in the RAF Reserves and had an amazing experience with their simulation, their pre-deployment training. It was absolutely fantastic. And I started to enjoy that simulation process, and I wanted to bring that into what I was doing. So eventually I decided, emergency medicine, was great, brilliant, but I want to go and educate. I want to get those 80 million nurses and see whether we can get them into the workforce. So I moved across to work in education. And I am, for my sins, currently studying a PhD in immersive technology, which we may touch on as we go on. And I'm now the head of education and training for Midlands Air Ambulance. So think quite a lot about the sort of opportunities that I've had to buy technology, to look at technology, to use different technology through these different avenues. In my last role, I built a simulation centre. I will talk a little bit more about that. That was the best thing ever. That was like proper good shopping. So I can tell you about some really, really exciting, but great to be able to shop. So this presentation, right technology, right place, right time. A little bit of a journey, talking about the tech that I've come across, the pitfalls, the things that I've found interesting, exciting, not so good. Happy to take questions or comments. Please, feel free to, if there's anything particular. But the use of technology is really difficult about how and when we should use it. When is the right time to use the technology? Why should we be implementing it? What are the reasons for having that technology? And I think we need to think about that probably a little bit more than we do at the moment. So this presentation could also be called, lessons I learnt whilst buying lots of stuff, or how to spend other people's money. And I've realised that I am really good at spending other people's money. I vastly regret not marrying rich because I could have had a really good time. When you have a budget, it is the best thing ever. When you don't have a budget, those skills that you have to learn to convince people to buy the stuff that you want are great skills. And I might not have married rich, but some of those skills I've got in negotiating to get the things I want are definitely working in the home life environment as well. So it is really important, though, to think about how we spend other people's money. It's great and it's easy and we've not got to, pay the mortgage at the end of it, but how do we spend it and how should we spend it? But there's a lot. It's really, really difficult to know what to buy. There are so many things out there to buy. It's actually quite overwhelming when you're asked to buy something or you're asked to scope to choose something to buy. All of these different companies, and I haven't got them all, this was my kind of like, I know these ones, I know that one. They offer some amazing things. And you can disappear down that rabbit warren of, ooh, this is great. I want one of these. It does that. Oh my God, it blinks. Its eyes light up. It's, it talks. It bleeds. I can touch its heart. Whatever that happens to be, you get really excited about that technology. And there is so much choice, and there's so many different choices. Do I need a SimMan 3G, or do I need a LifeCast? Do I need a cut suit? Or do I need a thoracotomy task trainer? And it's really difficult to make those decisions. And what is the right decision? How do I choose? How do I make? And it's down to me. It's often down to one person, isn't it? Or your little team. You might go and see what other people have got, and you want what they've got because that was really shiny and they've got one. So I want one. I'll get the better one. There's a little bit of competition sometimes with that. But knowing what to get is really overwhelming. Do I want VR goggles or do I want virtual reality rooms? Sometimes you can be paralysed by the decision making because what's going to come out next? If I spend all my money now, if they make this next week and I haven't got any money left and I want that, how do I justify all that? And there's been rapid growth in this market. We've gone from having Resusci Annies and, our simulation is more about how we're doing it rather than the mannequin that we've got, to having all of this kit, all of this availability. It's very, very difficult. We've also had quite a lot of investment over the past few years, so hopefully all of you have had, tapped into that Health Education England money down the back of the sofa. They were finding quite a substantial amount of cash. But they gave you about 2 weeks to decide what you wanted. You can have £300,000, decide now. Oh my God, I don't know, but this is really shiny, so I'll have 4 of those and that will sort it out. It's really, really difficult to make that decision with those short time frames. And you know, we've maybe bought lots of things that we don't really need. I'm sure there are people in this room who have bought things with that money that is sat in a cupboard, maybe gathering a little bit of dust. We've not actually used it, but we spent that money, so that's okay. And we've all been there. I definitely bought things with that money that I didn't actually really use, but then I've left that job now, so it's fine. They'll find some way of using it. Has this growth, has all of this technology led to better simulation? Do you think having all of this technology has led to better simulation? I'm not convinced it has. I think, you know, in some ways we've got lots of technology and we're getting a little bit of style over substance. You know, is there the simulation and what we're actually trying to achieve, because we've become obsessed with building sim centres and buying equipment to put in them. I'm not sure that it's improved our delivery and our quality of simulation necessarily. I think there are pockets of that, but I think we're almost retrospectively now learning what to do based on the technology that we've got. And I think there's probably a case of all the gear and not necessarily all the ideas sometimes, but the ideas are coming and the technology is sparking those ideas. So that desire to have the shiny things, and I am very guilty of the desire to have the shiny things. The Health Education England money was great, you know. Did I buy things that I didn't need? Yeah. VR goggles was my thing. I really wanted VR goggles. They were great. They were really shiny. Bought quite a few VR goggles. Was very proud of myself that I went for a slightly different VR goggle with some eye tracking software in it because, you know, I'm going to do a bit of eye tracking. Did we ever use the eye? No, not used it. It didn't work for me. It didn't actually solve the problem that I had because I had 300 students and I had 50 VR goggles. How does that work? You know, I hadn't thought about the people that I'm teaching and how I'm going to teach them. I'd seen the VR goggles. I wanted the VR goggles. I bought the VR goggles. And they were used and they are used, but are they now that SimMan 3G that I had when I was a student that gets wheeled out for one lesson? Or even better, the open day. Never to be seen again on that educational course, but it's brought out and shiny nice for open days and the photos in the brochure. We've got some really nice brochures knocking around. Not entirely convinced we're all using the equipment in them. So I think the money that we had was a bit of a double-edged sword. And I think the more you have to fight for what you're going to buy, the better you're going to buy. So being given £300,000, absolutely marvellous. But if you have to fight for it, if you have to put a business case together, if you've got to justify why you want one item, I think you think about it a little bit more, and I think your justification is a little bit better. And if it's going to take you 6 months to get it, you are actually going to be in a better position. And you might change your mind while you're waiting. There might be something better that comes out. There might be a different way of doing something that comes out. And not everything is right for your learners. Just because they are using VR goggles doesn't mean that that's going to work for me. And I think there are some great things happening with VR. There's a presentation I saw in the brochure about using VR for imposter syndrome with medical students. I don't know who's doing that, but yeah, I really need your help, so that might help me. But I think there's uses for lots of different things, but you've got to think about your learners, your institution, how that's going to work for you. Is that the right technology in the right place? So it's kind of all that glitters is not education gold. You know, we don't necessarily need it for our education. We need to really think about how we're going to do that. And we also need to think about what comes first. Is it the pedagogy? Is it the technology? So, in an ideal world, who thinks pedagogy should come first? Who thinks technology should come first? Yeah. in an ideal world, we should, CAE, like, technology, it's the technology. Emily will not be invited back again. I promise there'll be some product placement in a minute. Technology's great. But to get the best use out of the technology that we've got or that we're going to buy, we need to think about the pedagogy. Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? You know, but for the majority of you, who has to design their pedagogy around the technology that they've got existing? Yeah? So you go somewhere and in your institution and we've got 3 Aries, 2 Junos and a Lucina, sort your curriculum out. That's what most of us have. It's very rare that we get to build something from scratch, choose all the right things, and to be fair, that's incredibly overwhelming if it does happen to you. So we often have to work that in reverse. We should be thinking about how we want to do it. So when we're buying new technology, we need to be thinking about how we're going to use it, how is this going to fit with what we've already got. But for the majority of the time, we haven't got any money. HE doesn't exist anymore. They have not found any money down there. I've been waiting on my email. I'm like, oh, come on, show me the money. There's been no money this year. I'm very disappointed. So we have to deal with the technology that we've got. And our hand is forced. So we have to use the technology to produce the education that we have. And we need to think about the student numbers. So if you have got 300 students, is one mannequin any good to you? You know, so if you've only got £70,000, possibly the price of a nice high-tech mannequin, are you going to buy one mannequin or are you going to buy 4 mannequins? I really want the shiny mannequin. I really want the mannequin that does all those things. But is that just because I want it? Am I really going to use it? Do the other mannequins do the things that I need them to do? And will I better service my group of students if I have 4 of those instead? And it's a really difficult decision to make because you want the shiny thing for the brochure and the open day, but you actually need the practicality for how you're going to teach your students. I've just recently changed jobs. I've been with Midlands Air Ambulance now for 6 months, and it's great. It's lovely. Red, shiny helicopters. Just living the dream. It's fabulous. But I have to work with the technology that they've got. So I have to make their program work with what they've already purchased. So they had some money, they've bought tech. Is it the right tech? Is it the wrong tech? There's no point really saying that now. That's what I've got, and that's what I need to use. Interestingly, as with most places when you go, oh, did you know that could do that? No. Oh, that's we found microphones recently in our sim bodies. We're very excited about the microphones in our sim bodies. But I have to work with the technology. There's still lots of stuff that I want, but I need to think about it in the context of what I've already got, what's going to enhance. I can't change it. I can't say, right, we're not going to do sim bodies, we're going to change and we're going to go completely this way. I've got to use the technology I've got and I've got to buy the enhancements to increase that. So that adapt and overcome with the technology that we've got. So we need to think about who we're training. Where are they at in that cycle of education? So we've got people here from universities, we've got people here who work in hospitals, in charities. So it's going to be very different depending on where you work. If you're at a college or a university, you've got large numbers of students, you're needing to push them through particular curriculums, you've got to get them through. For a lot of places, virtual placements are now available only for simulation, but we're not going to tell you what simulation is if we're the NMC. Yeah, you're feeling me there? Yeah, very. It's all a bit vague. So how are we going to do that? And how are we going to do that with what we've got? And what are we going to buy to enhance that? So we need to think about the learners, how we're training them, and what we're doing it. So in an ideal world, they come first, technology comes afterwards. If you're running a T-level course, you know, what equipment do I need for that? And it's really difficult because quite often, you know, you guys are in a great position. I don't know why I'm telling you that you've all come to HPSN. This will answer your questions of what to buy and how to help with your courses. But for lots of people, it's a Google search, and quite often Laerdal comes up first. And, you know, we're having a look to see what we're going to buy, and that's the shiny one. That's obviously what everybody's got. I'll buy one of those. But then how are you going to use it? How's that going to work? Do you need a SimMan 3G if you're teaching T-level courses? Are they going to cannulate? Are they going to catheterize? Or are they actually going to be doing more nursing care and procedural things where something like a CAE Juno is going to be the better product? But you don't know that if you're starting off in this journey of what equipment do I need for these students and how am I best going to educate them with the equipment that's available. So we need to think about what we need to teach them and how they're going to learn. And you know, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's coming in the future. They might get rid of those virtual placements that they've given us and all the stuff that we've bought for them. You know, they might bring in virtual placements for medical students. They might do all sorts of changes, and we don't know what's going to happen. So what we buy needs to be future-proofed. But thinking about who it's for, we need to think about the learners and how we're going to teach them. So if you're running a T-level course, you probably need more task trainers. You might need mannequins that you can do full care on because you're thinking about those human factors. You know, these are people who are going to have to deal with, you know, care at that early level. Do you even need a mannequin? Sorry. Actors. You know, how are we going to engage? You know, for a long time, we did solely task training and we've got mannequins, and I know they can talk, but, you know, you've got to have that interaction, you've got to have that discussion, you've got to break that bad news, you've got to have that difficult conversation, and that is harder with a mannequin. And actually, a real person to have that engagement with, and then spend the money on a VR room. I like the VR rooms, because you are able to then change your environment that person is in, and you are able to change all of those other things around that patient and that nurse or that healthcare assistant or that doctor. So it's thinking about which technology is the right technology. Just because you can afford the fanciest thing doesn't mean you need to buy the fanciest thing. You might need to buy 10 of the not fanciest thing because that will better service you and your students. Consider other enhancements. I love Simu smells. Has anybody had Simu smells? Oh, yeah, love a pair of Simu. I mean, if nothing else, it's definitely worth putting in your colleague's office if you get the opportunity. Simu smells are amazing. For those of you who haven't come across Simu smells, it's a bit like a Glade plugin, but more cappy. They can make any smell you like. So melina, vomit, the fun that can be had with a Simu smell, which actually, you know, enhances that learning experience more for the student. Can you go into that patient's home and not pull a face? You know, how are you going to deal with that? Think about moulage. There's some technicians here. You know, technicians are great. They can do moulage. They can make all sorts of amazing things, not just operate mannequins. Actually, maybe concentrate on the moulage, concentrate on those other elements that makes for more realism within the simulation. Pre-registration, it's lots of everything, isn't it? We need to have multiples of things. We need to have the ability to train lots of students. One of something is never going to be enough. You know, one ward, one VR room, 10 sets of goggles, one high-fidelity mannequin is not going to be enough. We're needing to think in multiples for these students. Otherwise, you are going to drive yourself insane repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again to students. And this is when lecturers get that burnout, because we've been teaching the same thing, and I've now listened to my voice teaching this session. I can't remember whether I've told you this or not. But, you know, the heart pumps stuff and sim. Yeah, and we lose interest. Yeah, I'm loving you. This is good. It's really hard to keep doing that. And if you design something which gives you small groups of students repeating something often and often and often, it makes it really difficult. So we need to think about different ways we can do that. For post-registration CPD and professional development, there's a lot more flexibility because, you know, there aren't 300 of them. I mean, I think I've got quite a lot at work. There's 60 clinicians where I work. I mean, to be fair, it's like herding cats. It is doctors and critical care paramedics. I'm like, but they're very good and they're very keen, but they need different things, and I don't need to repeat it 100 times. You know, so it makes it a lot more meaningful. It enables me to think about their education and think about the training that we're doing in a slightly different way. And it's great to, you know, for me, it's pre-hospital now. And we could think about, you know, have people been to Safeside? I don't know whether that exists in other parts of the world. So Safeside is an amazing facility, buses and houses and all sorts of things like that that you can go into, and then you do your simulation in those environments for pre-hospital. And a lot of universities are building flats and houses and things like that. But when you've got that, that's all it's ever going to be. You can't use that space for anything else. So you really need to think about, will that space work for anything else? So this is where the use of immersive rooms becomes a really useful thing, because ultimately it's a big grey empty box. And I can do all sorts of things in a big grey empty box. There are cameras in there, so it does restrict. But we can do all sorts of things there. So when it's not an immersive room, it could be an exam room or it could be an OSCE station. But when it is an immersive room, it can be somebody's flat, it can be by the side of a river, it can be all of those different things. And then the other stuff that I put into that environment is what is going to enhance it. And I can do that in that post-registration training environment, because we have got smaller numbers of students coming through. We can be a lot more bespoke. We can really think about what they need to learn, and we can enhance it because we've got that capability. I'm now starting to feel like we may need more task training. I know I've never said, do I need more task trainers, was a question I asked myself the other day. And I was horrified, because I've always been, no, I want mannequins. It's going to be amazing. But actually, working now with qualified professionals, we're thinking about those high risk, low occurrence things. So hopefully, we don't need to do a hysterotomy. Hopefully, we don't need to do thoracotomies on people. But if we do, you want the people who are going to do that to you to be really good at it. So actually, we might need task trainers, and we do need task trainers to practice that skill. And then the simulation maybe becomes a little bit less, or it becomes an enhancement, and we're thinking about different things in the simulation. It's more about the human factors and the empathy and all of those kind of elements, instead of trying to do everything on a mannequin, because you can't always do everything on a mannequin. And it is something, it's something that I'm starting to realise, that actually that mix is really important, but it's the right things at the right time. So, we still need that crystal ball. What are they going to want to learn? What is going to be the newest procedure, that people are able to do? The CCPs that I work with are, doing all of these advanced procedures. There might be more advanced procedures. We're doing more and more pre-hospitally. How can I make sure that they are best prepared to be able to do that? And that's a very different question to our pre-registration, who we have the NMC and the GMC and the HPCP. They do, but they tell us what we need to do. We tell us what we need to teach them. But in the post-registration world, there's a little bit more of actually what do we need in our hospital? What's the key thing? I speak to colleagues in hospitals, and they're like, we want a mannequin that can fit and the tongue will swell, because we do lots of deteriorating patient scenarios. Great. But do you need the highest fidelity mannequin in the world to do that that's going to cost you 70 grand? Maybe, but does something else do that for you, and could you have more of them so you could actually run a ward-based scenario with several mannequins who are going to have issues, and instead of being one patient and the doctors are dealing with it, you might have 3 patients that the doctors are having to deal with. So thinking about how am I going to expand this and make this as good as possible. So how do we teach? How do we get them through these sorts of things? How do we get from task to simulation? I mean, maybe we need to now start thinking about going from simulation back to task again. I don't know. Do we need to? Do we need to do lots of simulation? I think probably the most people in the room, yes, we do need to do lots of simulation. Yes, we do. I promise I'm not up here going, no, we're not doing that anymore, I've changed my mind. But task training can be enough in certain areas if we're thinking about competencies and we're thinking about checking that competency. But we need to think about the right technology. How do we get our students from task training on inanimate objects? And my favourite one for a task trainer is the catheterisation task trainer, because we're all there, it's on the table in front of us, we're catheterising, it's marvellous. In real life, those patients, 99.9% of the time, have got legs. And you will never catheterise somebody like that. It is more of that kind of angle with a leg and you can't do that on a task trainer. You need a mannequin with legs to be able to properly do a simulation and understand that you can't do it on your own. You are going to need a colleague to help you. You are going to need other things. And it's really important because we train student nurses to do this task, and they get out there in the real world and they're like, oh, okay, it's you, human with legs, who I've got to have a conversation with while I'm doing this very intimate thing to you. And then do I recognise you in Tesco's later? Don't say hello to anybody in Tesco's. So we need a mannequin for that, because it really is a big part of that. Do we need a mannequin to practice cannulation and venipuncture? Actually, I quite like the idea of that, because again, people tend to have bodies, not just arms. And if they only had arms, they wouldn't need catheterising. But we might need to do some practicing to get the technicality right on the arm. But it's very different when you've got a patient who wants to lie down or is a bit fainty. Maybe we want one of those little pads that you can put on a real actor who is then, I am terrible for having bloods and injections. I'm a lying down, I might vomit, I feel a little bit sick, all of that. I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible patient. No problem with anybody else's blood, sticking needles in them or anything like that, or gravy, but don't like it for myself. But we don't practice that, and they don't get that opportunity until they go out in practice. And we're almost setting these students up to fail by giving them human beings to practice on when they go out in placement that have got all of their limbs. So we need to be making it as realistic as possible. So even when I'm saying task training, do we do task training on mannequins? Because actually we need to be thinking about them a little bit more. When we think about our simulations and, when we think about simulation, we sort of say a simulation lasts 5 minutes, the debrief should last 10 minutes. Doubling it up, really, really good. I'm terrible again at debriefing because I talk far too much. But should we be thinking the same around task and simulation? Should our task training be a little bit more and our simulation be less? Because the simulation is that consolidation? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I think there's different ways that we need to be thinking about things. I think we need to take our students from task training, we need to bring them to simulation. So we're going from the inanimate object to the patient in the room with all of the things, and we're dealing with that patient and we're managing that patient a little bit more. This is in our immersive room, and an outdoor scene, and one of our critical care paramedics is dealing with that life cast mannequin there. So we've gone for a hyper-realistic mannequin. This paramedic will have practiced the airway procedures, the RSI or intubation on a mannequin multiple times. And then they'll be going into the simulation, and now they've got the whole body and they're having to deal with other things. They might have to deal with smells, they might have to deal with sounds. We ran a simulation the other day where in the immersive room, and we had an alarm going off. Oh God, it's so annoying. But it's so distracting. And actually in real life, they're distracted. You will never, ever do any sort of clinical practice thing like this, all quietly, all nicely, everybody holding still, it's all perfect, everything's there exactly where you need it. Doesn't happen in real life, and we need to practice that, don't we? We need to be mimicking real life. We need to be showing, how is this working for us in real life? What are the noises? What are the distractions? What if that piece of kit isn't there? So if the piece of kit isn't in the bag, well, did you check the bag before you went out? In real life, you would. But in simulation, have you checked the bag? Because I might have taken something out, because your colleague might have not put something in there. And it makes a massive difference, that human factors, that thinking about how are we testing people, how are we training them, how are we getting them prepared to be able to deal with those difficult situations. So when I was working at Staffs, we developed a framework called the 5-stage approach. And this allowed us to get our students from theory all the way through into practice. And I still implement this in the post-registration world. But it's basically a framework for staff and a framework to students to say to them, this is the process we're going to take you through, so that they understand where they are at with their learning to get them from that theory through to practice. So we start with our keynote lectures, written content, videos, and this is really important. So we would give them a skills video of, say, cannulation, and they can watch that as many times as they like. I'm really good, I'm going to watch it once and I'm fine. But somebody else might need to watch it 6, 7, 8 or 9 times to feel comfortable with that skill. So then when they come into their facilitated skills sessions, they're practicing that technique. So they're straight in there for that skill. Because the biggest issue I found when I started working in higher education was skills sessions. And they'd have 3 hours for their skills session. And the first at least 45 minutes of it in the skills room was sat on chairs being talked to. What is the point for me? You know, as a student nurse, I've got my uniform on, I'm dead excited, I'm going to do some stuff to people, and you're going to sit me on a chair and you're going to talk to me for 45 minutes. Why isn't that done before I get there? Why am I in a skills lab doing that? You know, for that student, it's really, you know, what are we going to do? So we're going to give them that content before they come in. So when they're in a skills room and they've got their uniform on, they're doing the practical things. They're doing stuff to patients. So they're able to come in, they've watched the video as many times as they like, and now they're able to come in and practice that skill. We then go on to facilitated simulation sessions. So this is kind of the simulation that we most commonly see. That sim where we're going, running the simulation, just going to stop you there, have a bit of correction, that sort of relatively real time. We're thinking about some of the technical and now the non-technical skills, but there might be some support given throughout that. And we might do several of these and multiple times. And then we're going to go on to that simulation at stage 4. And this is more about human factors. This is, a simulation in real time. This is simulation where we don't stop them if they're making a mistake. We don't, I'll just stop you there. Because when you say to somebody, I'll just stop you there, I wasn't really going to give it. I knew I wasn't really. Because but actually, if they give that drug, or if they make that error, do they realise and do they correct it within their simulation? Have they got that knowledge? Oh my God, I've just given that. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh, okay, so what's the reversal agent for that drug that you've just given? How are we going to manage that? So we're thinking about what would we do in the real world. You might need to fill out a day text now. So it's a little bit more realistic, and that's why we need that slightly extended debrief, so we're really talking about what we've got in there. And then stage 5 is that going into practice in that placement, with those real patients and how we're doing that. And I use an adapted version of this in the pre-hospital environment. It's a lot easier in the because they all know what to do. And they just turn up and they do stuff and it's great, and I leave the kit out and I don't have to be quite so facilitating about working with these qualified professionals, which is great. So this is kind of a bit of a framework for how we're going to get our students through and what technology we're going to give them and how we're going to do it. I really love the virtual environments. I think they're a really useful enhancement, but they're not the right thing for everybody. Just because I've got one doesn't mean everybody else needs to have one. Just because they've got one of those doesn't mean that I need one of those for my staff. But yeah, crystal ball would be brilliant, wouldn't it? What is that next bit of technology? If I've got a bit of budget, I'm going to buy it first. I want to have that one before anybody else has. But why? I need to have that reason for having that technology and how to use it. So the framework won't let us see into the future, but it gives us a way of managing the students. And in an ideal world, again, living in this marvellous ideal world, we'll be able to update our tech on a regular basis, and we'll be able to buy things when we want them. How many people are able to do that? Oh, they've got money at the back. I like that. We're there. But you can't always. You've got to think about, if I buy all of these mannequins, how am I going to look after them? I've spent my £70,000 on 8 wonderful mannequins. Have I thought about a plan for the maintenance? Have I employed a technologist to be able to operate it for me? Have I got all of the rest of that infrastructure that fits around there? Have I got the ability to update, do I need to buy additional skins for the arms of these mannequins? And oh my goodness, depending on where you buy stuff from, you could have bought a really great mannequin, but if all the parts are going to remortgage your university, what is the point in buying it in the first place? So needing to think about those on costs of the technologies that we're buying so that we're able to manage them a little bit better. We don't have a crystal ball, and we don't live in an ideal world, although the people at the back have got they've got. Yeah, I'll point them out to you after. The closest thing that we've got is a sim conference. This is the closest thing that we've got to see what technology is out there, and they've already hinted there's some new stuff coming. And I'm already like, oh, maybe I won't put my budget in just yet. Let's see what they've got for me to buy. But will it be the right product for the people that I work with? And if it's not, I need to restrain myself and not buy it. It needs to be the right thing. But these conferences are great for that, to network and talk to people from other universities or other hospitals or other areas that are similar to yours. What are you doing? How are you doing it? What did you buy? What discount did you get? All of these different things that we can do at these conferences that will really help us. But for many of us, the kit we choose to buy is the kit we are going to use for the next 10 years. We have got this kit. I have found a SimMan, I think it's a 3G, but it's on Windows 8. And I am like, oh. I mean, the 2 laptops that it comes with are like, you know, if I needed a doorstop, they would be amazing. I'm really scared to do any sort of update on that because that is not going to work for much longer. But that has been knocking around, must be 15 years old, must be. So we keep this kit. You know, maybe there's another presentation on when we should throw things away. If anybody wants a SimMan, I might be in the market for a bit of eBay. But we might be using this kit for a really long time. Has it got the durability to last? So when I was at the university, I bought all sorts of different things. But, you know, how is it going to last? Is it still working? I will speak to the colleagues who from the university I used to work at. Is it all still okay? But we need to think about how we're using it, particularly in the NHS and in the charity sector. You know, it's really difficult for us to get the money to buy the things, particularly as a charity, because if you're donating money to put helicopters in the sky for Midlands Air Ambulance, I can't be taking all that lovely budget and buying sim stuff. We have to fundraise separately for that. So don't worry, if you do want to donate, we'll always take those. And it does go towards that sort of thing. But it still doesn't help me know what I want and how I'm going to do it. But you've bought your technology. You've now got to live with it. Yeah? Because you ain't going to change it. You're not going to be able to swap it out. You are stuck with the technology that you've bought. So you really need to think about how you're going to use it. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what you buy, as long as you've thought about it and as long as you use it. Please use the stuff that you buy. Don't leave it in boxes in the cupboard. If it will take fluid, put fluid in it. If you can stick stuff in it, stick stuff in it. There is nothing worse than seeing these pristine mannequins that have never had a cannula put in them, and they're still putting the cannula wrapped in the packet on the mannequin and putting a bit of tape around it. Does anybody do that? Yeah, it's a bit ALS-y sort of thing. Well, I've given some fluids. No, you haven't. This mannequin will take fluid, put the fluid in it. Take the fluid out of it. That's why you've paid £70,000 for that mannequin. If you're not going to do it, don't buy it. And if you've bought it, use it. And if you've bought it in the last 12 months, really, really use it because it's under warranty. And if you break it, they're going to fix it for you. Always a big thing. Try and use it as much as you possibly can because you will find the things that you need with it. And it does it. It does all of those things for a reason. Use them. If you're not going to use them, you know, what is the point in having that piece of equipment? You also need to think about the people who are supporting you with the tech. I love technology. I'm really getting very excited. I cannot operate all of the technology all of the time. I'm a bit like, I need people. And I can see 2 of my colleagues at the back, Sophie and Josh, who I used to work with. Oh, I'm Rhiannon at Staffs Uni. Amazing technicians. Your technicians are worth their weight in gold. They are the people who can tell you, don't buy that, it's not the right thing. Listen to them. Buy that, that's the right thing. Because they need to operate it. They need to be using this technology, and we need to make sure that they're on board at the very beginning. So it's really important when you're thinking about the technology that you're going to use and how you're going to implement it, that you involve the people using it rather than me go, bought this, enjoy. If you could just make that work for 300 students, that'd be amazing. It's not that easy. So thinking about how you're going to work it and how you're going to use it, thinking about how you can enhance your delivery, making sure you're being cost effective and making sure you've got the technology that you actually need. And you always want to ask yourself, why? Why do I want this? Is Is it just because it's shiny and new? Or is it because I've got something that I need to replace? Is it because this is the technology that's going to really enhance the delivery that I've got? Why do I want to buy this? Have a really good rationale. Who is your learner? Who am I doing this for? For the guys that I'm working with at the moment, I don't necessarily need them to be able to palpate a pulse on a mannequin. I'm pretty confident that with all their years of practice, they know how to do that. They can find a pulse. Actually, a sim body is fine. It's got a little bit more realism. We're thinking about empathy. We're thinking about a different way of using that mannequin. And actually, I want simulated ventilators and monitors and things like that where I can put cardioversion on and pacing and all of that sort of stuff on my mannequin as opposed to the mannequin being able to do it. So thinking about the learner and how we're going to work with that learner. What do they need to learn? Is it a task? Is this something I need a task trainer for? Is this something that a mannequin will act as a task trainer for? What is the ultimate goal of their learning? And how are they best to learn it? Is technology the answer? It might not be. Maestro Evolve, I'm right, that's the right, it's wonderful for teaching pathophysiology, it's amazing. We've got mannequins, right, we're going to do it on the mannequin. Actually, put it up on the screen, you've got all of your observations on there, you're able to teach using a monitor, observations, you've got M-body, you can listen to chest sounds in a classroom environment. So all of you could be having that lecture on that pathophysiology using that technology, which is fantastic, rather than me splitting you all into how many small groups would I have to get all of you in there through a skills lab with a mannequin? Is that the right way to do it? What is the right technology? It might be different to what you were already thinking. How can we move things, make it purposeful, make it meaningful when it's simulation? Where is it going to be? What's the setting? So are we in hospital? Are we out of hospital? Are we going to build a 3-bedded flat? How many times a year will we use that? Can we use it for other things when it's not that? All of these things are really important. And then when you've asked yourself, well, ask again, why? Why am I doing it? Have I done all of these things? And is it the right choice for me? So I've worked in several different types of organisation, and I've seen them spend money in lots of different ways. And they've used technology in lots of different ways. The NHS, very little money, although sometimes it's about that time of year they're all going to start finding some money soon. It's about that time to get your business case in if you're in the NHS for the found money at the end of the financial year. Universities have, and when I was at a university, I said, I haven't got any money. They've got loads of money. In comparison to everybody else, universities have got quite a lot of money and an ability to spend it. But sometimes there's lots of hoops that you need to jump through. In the military, it's very mission orientated, it's very purposeful. It was very low cost. It was not very high fidelity. It was a more non-technical. And again, that's really important. And I think about this when I think about paramedic students. Our paramedic students had Megacode Kellys because I could not trust them to use any other sort of mannequin because they break them. If you're going to be throwing something in and out of the back of a van, is this mannequin going to withstand the use by these people? Because you don't want to be precious about these things. You've got to use them for the reason that you've bought them. If in real life they're going to be doing these things, if they're going to be outside in a puddle, they need to be outside in a puddle. So you need to have the right mannequin for that. Working for a charity, it is a lot different now, and I have to do all sorts of justification for spending. I feel very guilty about my spending. It's really taken the joy out of shopping, working for a charity. Bit like, really can't buy as many shiny things as I like to. But we need to think about the technology that we've got. This is the Simulation Centre at Staffs Uni. And we really thought about technology as we were building this. We haven't got viewing rooms. We haven't got that one-way mirror glass. We've got learning space. I don't work there anymore, but they've got learning space. It's amazing. You don't need to have that direct viewing. Those students can view into any of these areas from home, from a classroom somewhere else. And that was a change we were able to make following COVID. And we use learning space an awful lot through that because actually you don't need to be in the room with people. That ability to voyeuristically watch with cameras is much better, and it's much better for the students. The immersive rooms are brilliant. They're great if you've not got a lot of space. Thinking about having a room that you can change into lots of different things is really, really useful. The one here, they can drive an ambulance and a car into it, so they're able to do road traffic accidents and things like that. And this kind of very similar to the military system, where they had a layout of, well, for me, it was Camp Bastion, so it was laid out exactly as you would find it. And when you go in, you're going through this is the door, and when you get out, there's a door here. That's where the toilets are. It's brilliant. But relatively low fidelity, but realism and run in real time. So thinking about running your simulation in real time is really important, but it's got to be set up in the right way. And then we've got, some people might only have Resuscianis. You can still do brilliant sim with a Resusciani. It's not ideal, I want to buy some shiny stuff, but you can. When we think about, is it pedagogy or technology? If it's pedagogy, you can do good sim with very little resource. And I think we've got a bit excited with technology because we had all of that money thrown at us. So we need to wind it back a little bit and think about it being in the right place at the right time. So you need to ask yourself, why am I buying it? Who is the learner? What do they need to learn? How is the technology going to enhance them? And what is the technology that is going to enhance that? And what is that setting that we're running it in? All of those different elements. And then ask again, why? Why am I doing this? What is my purpose for this purchase, or how I'm going to do that? And yeah, there's loads of stuff I still want. I have still got a massive shopping list. Slightly more guilty about my shopping list now. I work for a charity than I ever was at a university or in the NHS, to be fair. It's really hard to spend other people's money when it's got a really charitable good cause behind it. But there are things I want. And have I got a budget? Not really. I have to really think about how I'm going to do things and how I'm going to do that. So I've got to really carefully think about the technology that's going to best enhance the practitioners, that ultimately is going to save people's lives and make it safer out there, because, if we all get ill, we want to be looked after by people who are going to look after us well. So we need to think creatively about how we're using things. So hopefully, I've given you a little bit of a rambling tour of my mind around technology, thinking about technology, thinking about the right place for that technology, thinking about the right time for that technology, asking yourself, is it the right technology? Can I afford it? Is it the right thing? And if the budget doesn't stretch, it's the right time of year. If you just put it on that list, it'll be fine. It'll be arriving in your home or your university very, very soon in the at Christmas. Fingers crossed, I've got a lot of things for Santa on my shopping list this year. So that's my presentation for you today. Hopefully that's been useful. Happy to take any questions if there are any questions.
First of all, thank you very much. It was very engaging, exciting, etc. And I have questions and comments. I think we are not strict with time-wise, right? Because we have a short break, or do we 5 minutes? Okay. Okay. So, are there any questions or remarks?
Hello.
Firstly, Emily, thank you so much for a really wonderful talk. My question is, you talked a lot about the learners and the technology. I work at university, so how do you get your other faculty to engage? Because you're very clear, but for me it's not so much. It's about the wider academic team with support for your wonderful technology. So have you got any top tips?
Yeah. And it is really difficult getting engagement from the wider team. How do you've bought all this technology, you've got all these great ideas, and it's you and the technology team, and nobody else wants to play the game. It's really important to think about not only educating your students, but educating your faculty, having courses. There are lots of simulation courses available out there. There are various different faculty development. Bring it in-house. Have a set agenda. This is how we're going to deliver sim. This is what we mean by simulation in our institution. This is how we want to deliver it. And I think setting that agenda, having that strategy, bringing people on board, giving them some sim, maybe not in their actual clinical profession, because everybody gets a little bit nervous about, oh God, they're going to check how good I am as being a nurse. So you might want to think about that faculty development in a different way. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, hello.
Hi, good presentation.
Thank you.
Firstly. Secondly, your current role as in Midlands Air Ambulance Charity, Do you think that in this role you're more capable because of your previous military background, or is it the sim side of things that made you more, so military experience versus the simulation that gets you more?
I think all of that helps. For me personally, the fact that it's helicopters and it's emergency care, which is where I clinically worked, that is the dream job. But the fact that, you know, I've moved more into an education role, although I do work clinically sometimes, it's really exciting to be able to take that to them and be able to kind of enhance the simulation delivery that's happening there. So a bit of both, really. I think it's just the journey that I've had. I think it all gets there. But yeah, equally, I'm a nurse and they're all doctors and paramedics, so I'm forever going, I'm a nurse. Very, very pleased with that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Dad? Oh, hello.
Hi, Emily. Again, good talk, and it's lovely to see somebody else who's got the same head that I've got.
It's all over the place.
The one thing I was going to say is about how you then monitor, or how you then prioritise what you're buying when you've got different fields feeding into you as well.
Yeah.
And it's how do you then organise that money when midwifery wants something, or mental health wants something, or child wants something.
Yeah.
And when you're an adult nurse, you know that adults should come first.
Yeah, and you do, absolutely, every time. I'm going to make them do catheterisation. No, I'm not. It is really difficult, and I think this is where thinking cleverly about the technology that you're buying and thinking, will this work across disciplines? So, for example, a Lucina mannequin for midwifery is brilliant, absolutely fantastic, but she comes with an abdomen that's flat. She doesn't need to be pregnant, so she could be used by adult nurses. She could be used by paramedics. So it's thinking about the usability across those genres. Do we buy Junos and Aries, but get a Mom and Natalie, for example, so that the midwives have got different elements? It's really difficult to prioritise, but I would say choosing things that can be used broader is the better way. And the thing that annoys me is you'll see a Lucina in a university and that's for the midwives. No one else shall touch Lucina. She's only for the midwife. Mental health nurses can use Lucina. Adult nurses can. Paramedics break things, but the paramedic students could use her for both her maternity function and for her other functions. So it's, you know, if you're going to buy a big ticket item, buy a big ticket item that works across the spectrum, or, you know, thinking about, actually, I might need 2 Lucinas because everybody can use it and it really bolsters the midwifery package. And we know that paramedics need more support with maternity. So, yeah. Sorry, is it tea time?
Thank you very much again for this. This was a fantastic opener. It fits a lot into the thoughts that we are discussing internally and externally. There's a learner journey. You need the right tools to deliver the confidence and competencies, etc., that people need in a messy world, right? Not in a task-ready environment. Not everything is a mannequin. There is a reason to use technology, but to reach these goals. So this is all ringing in our ears. I think if you find an opportunity, come to IMSH, because there will be something around this. I have, because we need to keep on time, I have two things that are self-explanatory to you and one that I need to explain. Okay, so I start with the easy ones. That's chocolate. Thank you very much.
How did you know? Thank you.
I'll keep it here. That's even easier.
Now you know me even more.
Okay, so put this to the side.
Thank you very much.
The other thing is a book, and I want to explain that. It's an autobiography by somebody called Willem van Moers, he's an electric engineer by training, but the journey of his life took him through all kinds of places and topics and personal developments, etc. And that's why he thought it might be useful to write something about this. And it's really entertaining to read, I can tell you, but it's mainly relevant. He's written the models of physiology that run our mannequins automatically, but where he came from was, he said there is a training need and we need an appropriate tool for that. That's basically what I learned from Willem, and it's a pleasure for me to
Thank you so much.
That's
well. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Should I help you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily. That was absolutely fantastic and really enjoyable. So we're going to move into the interactive rotations in a second, so I will explain the groups, but firstly, just to let you know, there's a slight change to the programme. So in one of the sessions at 12 o'clock today in the Pippin room, unfortunately Anne Sunderland isn't available to join us now. So there will still be a presentation going on in that room, and we will fill the sort of the second half of that session with a sort of a CAE Q&A. So if people do want to come along and speak to any of the CAE team about anything specific, then we can do that. So that's the 12 o'clock session. And then we're going to now move into the rotation. So if everybody has got the sticker on their name badge, we will start with the red group. So if anyone is in the red group, Christiana is at the back now. She's going to give you a wave, and she will lead you on to your first session. So if we can ask the red group to go first before everyone else jumps up.